welcome to a late night edition of Crime Time with Dutyron. Guys and girls, I am a retired New York City police detective with over 20 years of law enforcement experience. And if you like all things true crime related from that police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things Dutyron when I go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight I decided to go live late. It's not usual that I go live this late at night, but I got a little burst of energy. So when this old man gets a little bit of energy, I figured let's talk about it. Debbie Collier, 59 years young. The morning, well, December 10th, going into September 11th, we had an incident where she went into a convenience store, bought a whole bunch of items. We thought she was going to tailgate. We thought it looked like she was going to see a football game. She winds up on the side of the road. And now the classification has changed, or they're talking about that the classification's now changed. How do they come from as the official said at the presser, this is a deliberate and personal action, deliberate and personal act, to now possibly a suicide or accidental death? Are we going to buy into that? I'm not sure if I can buy into that, pending all of the talks and all of the reports back from the forensic reports, as we know, I think will tell the story in this case. But before we get into it, I want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all the folks who positively engage here, the subscribers, the replay viewers, the moderators, everybody who super chats, who says hello, who leaves questions down below for Ed and I. You guys are really what makes this a great place, and I give thanks and praise to you guys personally. Hey, this case, we covered so much. Remember we talked about her 2022 Chrysler Pacifica, the rental, and we had our Uconnect special auto crimes guy come in. We talked about so much stuff on this case. Janine, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate you, and thank you for those kind words. We tried to cover all the different angles on this thing, and in covering all the different angles, the only thing that we weren't able to talk to you guys about is the final autopsy and the tox reports from a forensic pathologist. So I'm going to play a little clip for you guys from Vinnie Politan. But before I play this court TV clip, I want you guys to let me know either in the comment section now or in the comments down below at the end of this video. What's your thoughts on this? Why are we 6 weeks out from this incident that occurred? Why is it 6 weeks out? We're now talking about a different scenario here. I mean, I want to know who's buying it and who's not buying it. From what I received on Dutyron.com, a majority of you guys are calling it hogwash. Jessica used my terminology there, hogwash, Dutyron. ATS News is here. Listen, we talked about her daughter, Amanda Bearden, right? We talked about her boyfriend, Andrew, their sketchy backgrounds, the Venmo text, the message within that Venmo, that cryptic text message. We also come to learn now that she sent those messages from that parking lot, right? From phone records, she sent those messages from the parking lot. She also sent a message to her son that she loved him. So, words to the effect, I love you, and it never went through. Hey, but I wanted some of you folks to join before I did what I was going to do here tonight. Now, as you guys know, Mike King from Profiling Evil, he's a good friend of Ed and I, but Mike King, I met Mike King on YouTube just about 2 years ago, and I hadn't met Ed Wallace. Ed and I worked in the New York City Police Department together, but we didn't know each other while we were working on the job. So I technically met Mike King before I met Ed Wallace. Um, and Mike King and I have such a great relationship because when he first started his channel, Profiling Evil, he had really no subscribers, and I had an established YouTube channel. So Mike King reached out to me and said, "Hey, Dutyron, I know that you and I are law enforcement brothers in blue, and you have a successful YouTube channel. Can you give me the ins and outs of this thing? Kind of like just asking about some tips." And I embraced him. I said, "You're a fellow brother in blue, and I want to see you succeed." So fast forward, we have a great relationship as true crime content creators. Retired law enforcement executive Mike King was a law enforcement executive. As a retired detective, we have become great friends. When I was live last night, he asked me to share his video that he was doing, or his live stream upcoming. And he didn't want to go live at the same time I was live. And that's like what brothers do, right? That's what friends do. We don't want to step on each other. And when you talk about a step on, it's like we're delivering the same type of content, the same cases. We actually were talking about the same case. So he messaged me while I was live, and I got the message and I was able to see it. And I said, "Sure, I'll promote, and I'll let everybody go on over to your channel after we were done." So if you guys are also subscribed to Profiling Evil, just by a show of hands, let me know how many of you guys are subscribed to Mike King and Profiling Evil. And if you're not, I suggest you go over there. But why I'm bringing this up during a Debbie Collier case is because Mike sent me a unbelievably warm. It gave me a good, warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart. Um, so Mike King sent me this video, and it's going to be available on his channel uh, publicly soon. But he sent me this video, and I was so moved by it, and I was so honored to receive this video. Some of you have already seen it. Some of his channel members have already seen it. But I want to play it here for you guys. So let's take a listen. It's only a minute and 57 seconds long. But this was Mike King sent this to me this morning. So I want you guys to hear it.
Well, hey everybody, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and I wanted to just take a second and shout out my buddy Ron over at Dutyron. I don't know if you watch Dutyron, and if you're not watching, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button and go over and spend time. Ron and I don't always agree on cases, but we always treat each other with respect, and we always look for chances to collaborate with each other. Tonight, Ron was in the middle of a live, and I was getting ready to go live. There was no way I wanted to go head to head with Ron, and that guy stepped up and invited you all to come over to Profiling Evil after his show was over, and I went live. It's relationships like that in the YouTube community that can really help us bring things together. There is a batch of other creators out there that I really enjoy working with, and some others that I just don't know well enough, I guess. But nonetheless, make sure you're going to Dutyron. Make sure you're visiting Ron and Ed and listening to the wisdom that's shared there. And make sure you're tuning in to Profiling Evil. Together, we might come up with some ways to help crack some of these cases. Most importantly, we're going to be part of this machine that's sharing information and keeping these stories alive. So, Ron, thanks so much for all your support of Profiling Evil, and to me personally. We were brothers in blue many years ago, and now on YouTube, we're brothers from different mothers. Thanks a lot, brother. Take care.
How awesome was that? Thank you so much, Mike King from Profiling Evil. What a great guy. And I was just tickled pink to get that video that he made and sent to me this morning. It's a testament to what kind of a guy he is. He's a gentleman, and he's a good friend. And when he said at the end, is so typical because my brother, I have a stepbrother. You know, a lot of you guys might not know this. I have a stepbrother who's an attorney. He's a criminal defense attorney. And I don't talk about him a lot, but he calls me. He says, whenever we talk on the phone, he says, "You're my brother from another mother." And so when Mike said that, it resonated with me on a lot of different levels. So really cool stuff. And kudos to Mike King at Profiling Evil. If you guys are not yet subscribed, head on over there. I will link his channel down below in the description. Let me just cue this up for you. Let me set it up. This is Vinny, our good friend Vinny from Court TV. Mike does a lot of work with him. I want to share this video. It's a little bit lengthy, but this is going to tell you where we're at with the Debbie Collier case. It's a kind of disturbing scenario because we went full steam ahead from a personal and targeted crime, personal and targeted murder, as we thought, to potentially now a accidental death, perhaps, or a suicide. We're going to talk about the percentages of people who burn themselves to death via suicide, and it's a very small number. You're going to hear some legal, medical death investigators talk about the percentage, which is very, very low, of people who do this to themselves. So let's listen in, and I'll be back with you guys in a few minutes.
Or support that this incident was related to a kidnapping, or support that this incident was related to a kidnapping, or that this was a suicide.
Okay, from the beginning, not a kidnapping, not suicide. Then 9 days later, September 30th, we got this update from the sheriff.
There is no information or evidence to this point that shows that this was something random, that there was something that was not from somebody that she either knew or somebody who she had some association with. That's what we're seeing at this time. So based on that information, we do not believe that this is a random act of violence. We do not believe that this is the act of a serial killer. We believe that this act was deliberate and personal.
So there, it seems we're investigating a murder that seemed to be deliberate and personal, right? Now, I want you to take a look on the screen, this report from Habersham Now, who's been covering this case in depth. And it says, a 6-week-old murder investigation in Habersham County may not have been murder after all. Sources close to the investigation into the death of Debbie Collier now say she may have died as a result of an accident or suicide. We may live in a world where we never know for sure, the source says. Wow, like I was not expecting that tonight. Let's bring in our guest, try to make some sense of this. Joining me tonight in Clarksville, Georgia, reporter and publisher for NowHabersham.com, where we got that information. Joy Purcell is with us. In Jacksonville, Alabama, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, former senior investigator for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, and the host of the Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan with us. And in Los Angeles, California, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. Great to see everyone. Joy, let me start with you. This, I was not expecting this. I don't know if anyone was. So this now, we don't even know if we're looking at a murder at this point. Is that what you're hearing?
That is what I'm hearing, Vinny. Of course, we have not received the autopsy report. We still don't know the official cause and manner of death. There are still a lot of unanswered questions in this investigation. But at this point, having spoken to several sources very close to this investigation, it appears that this may be something other than what we have all suspected and been told by law enforcement from the beginning, which is that this is a murder investigation.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, you've been at...
Before we go any further, this woman is the media contact at Habersham Now. We played a lot of her video footage from the crime scene of Debbie Collier's van being towed out. That whole crime scene footage was from her news media company, and she has she's going to talk. You're going to hear this woman at the end of this talk about she has law enforcement contacts, sources that are on this case, stating that they are looking at possible suicide, possible accidental death. It's just mind blowing. But listen to what the legal medical death investigator says. Joseph Scott Morgan. He's the equivalent of Barbara Butcher. I mean, we all love and respect Barbara. She's our gal. But this is the other half of Barbara Butcher. This is the male version of Barbara Butcher. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Way too many death scenes, right? But I want you to take a look at this. This is from the Habersham County Sheriff's Office. Let's remind everyone about the scene here of Debbie's death. Habersham County Sheriff's Office K-9 unit responded to the scene and initiated a search. The search resulted in locating a red tote bag, partially burnt blue tarp, and eventually the victim's partially nude and burnt body grasping a small tree down a ravine. The victim was deceased. Joseph Scott Morgan, remembering that and now understanding that this investigation is taking an unexpected turn, how do we make sense of this? What's going on?
Well, you know, the problem is that we still are absent an autopsy report and a tox report at this time. And Vinny, it's not like this was done in a vacuum. You know, they were both done, both of these tests, well, the examination and the testing are both done by the GBI. It's literally one section is across the building complex from the other. So it's not like these two are not communicating with one another. I don't understand what the, you know, kind of what the holdup is relative to this. The police are obviously.
Just so you guys know, the GBI is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. It's just like the TBI. It's just like the CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigation. It's the state investigating authorities, and the GBI they have a great deal of technology available to them forensically.
Exploring, you know, because they're kind of the gatekeeper here relative to any further information that's going to come out, and I think that they're exhausting everything they have. What's very interesting to me, Ben, is that now they have an arson investigator in this case, and the clothing that was found at the scene, they did detect the presence of accelerant there. And, you know, the shirt, I think, which we've talked about at length, and that's something that can specifically be kind of sussed out in all of this. And one of the things we're going to be looking for when that autopsy report comes out, two things. First off, we're going to hear about her lungs. Is this something, did she inhalate anything? And generally with fire-related deaths, you'll have soot in the airway and down into the lungs. And secondly, they're going to run a test called a carboxyhemoglobin level. And essentially what they're looking for is carbon monoxide in her system. And that is kind of a derivative of a fire burning, and you're inhalating that along with the debris. So that's going to be real critical as well. And those tests are easily done. It should be turned around pretty quickly. I mean, we've already got the arson results back. So we're just kind of sitting back and waiting right now, Ben.
Bobby Chacon, there's a you know, you've got the video of her 15 minutes away. It takes her 45 minutes to get there, but 15.
Yeah, you know, in the chat, somebody said women typically use guns when they commit suicide, and they don't shoot themselves in the face because they want to have an open casket. Is this a possibility here? Let me present this to you guys quickly. And I'm not saying that this is what it is, but is there a possibility that she, in fact, sent that text message? Because we now have details that that message to her daughter in the Venmo was sent from the parking lot. Confirmed. You're going to hear it in this thing. It's confirmed. She sent that message, and she sent an additional message after that Venmo message to her son, but it didn't go through. Could this be a possibility? And just hear me out. I'm not saying that this is what it is. Could she have had a weak moment and did attempt to and did follow through with killing herself? and creating a situation so it didn't look like she killed herself. It looked like somebody else had her that message with Venmo to kind of save face. Could this be possible that she was hell-bent on doing this and then creating this scenario to kind of spare everybody around her, her daughters, her son, her daughter, her son, her husband? Is that a possibility? Yeah, I think. Is it probable? Only the evidence will tell us. But let's take a listen in here. He's going to talk with this former FBI agent, and all of these tests that they're doing, this arson investigator, this carboxyhemoglobin test. Ed had talked to me about it today, is if she in fact did have herself lit on fire and she was breathing it in, there's going to be indications from the accelerant from the fire. So we'll see. This is, again, I'm not saying that that is what happened. I'm just presenting a possibility. So I see a lot of you guys are not agreeing, but anything here is possible. So let's go back to this.
15 minutes away at the Family Dollar store, we've got this. There's a
around pretty quickly. I mean, we've already got the arson results back, so we're just kind of sitting back and waiting right now, Ben.
Bobby Chacon. You've got the video of her 15 minutes away. It takes her 45 minutes to get there, but 15 minutes away at the Family Dollar store, we've got this cryptic message that she sent. They won't let me go. She sends money to her daughter after she exits the store while she's in the parking lot there. I can't put these pieces together.
Yeah, they don't seem to fit, right? I mean, that's the problem here. They don't seem to fit. They take you in different directions, right? Is it an accident? Is it a suicide? I would almost set up two investigative teams, one to follow the narrative of a possible accident and the other the possible suicide. And obviously those two teams would look at this from different angles, and you see what physical evidence supports each one of those, and then you move down those roads. There's also reporting that initially there was not a gas can, but then they went back and they found remnants of a gas can under where that burned car was. So, it's highly unusual for a woman to commit suicide by burning themselves, by setting themselves on fire. When you see the statistics on suicide, that is one of the fewest ever that take place. Setting themselves on fire, anybody, but especially
look at Joseph Scott Morgan. He's shaking his head and agreeing because the statistics don't lie. It's a very, very small amount of people commit suicide by burning themselves. Very, very small.
Woman, it's not a common way to do it. So you factor all of those things in. It looks like she might have, the fire started in the car and then she was able to get out of the car. When people are on fire, they tend to run, which unfortunately doesn't help. We always say the drop and roll to put out the fires. You're running, you're actually feeding the fire. So if she was running towards that ravine and grabbed it as she was burning, we don't know, but I would set up two different investigative teams to look at both of those and kind of do it separate and see where those things lead. Of course, we're not going to know until, all of this comes out. And Vinny, I'm loath to make investigative information available publicly because oftentimes it seems like the investigation's going in a lot of different ways, and it is. We don't have a narrative. Later on in a trial, you'll hear the narrative, but in the early stages of an investigation, we have to go in every different direction that it takes us. So sometimes it looks disheveled, but that's the nature of the process. And so we have to kind of follow all these things. That's why you heard 2 weeks ago that this may have been a murder investigation, and now you're hearing it's something else, because different things develop early in the early stages of an investigation. Doesn't mean they're not doing their job. Doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. It just means that these things are.
Chacon brings up some great points here. He does talk quite a bit, but he is bringing up tremendous points here in this scenario.
Are a mystery, and you have to suss out each one as it comes up. We know certain things. Doc is really good at as doing the science of it, but then there's the other things of it. I would I would be investigating whether she had any mental health issues in the past. Did she see a counselor, a therapist? Because that cryptic message, I'm not saying that she heard voices. I'm saying she's referring to somebody when she says they won't let me go. Who's the they that she's referring to? And did she ever have issues like that in the past?
Big part of all this. All right, our guests are staying with us. We're going to talk more about this when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, my name's Amanda Bearden,
This is her daughter on the 911 call.
and I filed a missing persons report on my mother last night.
Okay.
Yesterday, excuse me, and I was just wondering if maybe I could speak with the detective that's been assigned to her case.
Do you have any further information?
I sure do. Do you want the case number?
I give you the case number so I can look it up that way.
All right, just by a show of hands here in the chat, how many of you guys were and still are suspect of her daughter and the boyfriend, Andrew Giergich? Just by a show of hands. If you are, put a 1. If you're not, put a number 2. I just want to get a feel of what the room is feeling. What is everybody feeling out there? Again, the scenario I propose to you is something that investigators have to look at, right? And you're going to hear here. So it looks like the 1s outweigh the 2s. I respect each and every one of your opinions. But until every avenue is followed, now you're going to hear, and you hear Ed and I speak about this, every case starts out with the highest possibility. You have to work the cases from the highest possible crime and then work it down to after the process of elimination, right? But here in this case, you're going to hear about the way avenues change as more interviews happen, as more evidence comes in, as more evidence gets ruled out, as more possibilities get ruled out, as other new possibilities get presented. And this is where people's heads explode, because when you lock in on one possibility and keep a narrow-minded view, it's not the proper way to investigate crimes. So let's listen. The second half of this is fascinating because you're going to hear the legal medical death investigator, Joseph Scott Morgan, talk a little bit more about the process. So let's take a listen in here now.
That's Debbie Collier's.
Hi, my name's Amanda Bearden, and I filed a missing persons report on my mother last night.
Okay.
Yesterday, excuse me, and I was just wondering if maybe I could speak with the detective that's been assigned to her case.
Do you have any further information?
I sure do. Do you want the case number?
I give you the case number so I can look it up that way.
That's Debbie Collier's daughter calling 911 with some additional information after they reported her missing. This is before her mom was found. How about the family? Let's bring back in our guest, Joy Purcell, publisher, reporter, now Habersham.com. Please check it out, folks. A lot of information about this case. Joseph Scott Morgan with us and Bobby Chacon. Joy, how about the family members?
Listen to what Joy says here now. This is the woman up in the top right. Listen to what she says here.
Have they all sort of been accounted for? Now Habersham.com. Please check it out, folks. A lot of information about this case. Joseph Scott Morgan with us and Bobby Chacon. Joy, how about the family members? Have they all sort of been accounted for that day? Do investigators know what they were doing, where they were, et cetera?
Listen.
Do we know?
Listen to this.
Well, it's our understanding that the local investigators have pulled back from their investigation of the family members, of course, because Amanda Bearden received the Venmo payment that was attached to that cryptic message. There was a lot of question about her and any potential involvement because of the money that she received. This family has undergone a lot of scrutiny, a lot of intense scrutiny. It's been a very challenging situation for them beyond the loss of their wife, their mother, their grandmother. They're having to undergo the suspicions that have been cast on them. But as I said, it is my understanding, again, speaking through those close to the investigation or with those close to the investigation, that they're pulling back from looking at the family members as potential persons of interest or suspects in this case. There's a key development that has happened since we last spoke, Vinny, and there was a question as to the timing of this all. Investigators had narrowed the timeline of when they knew that Debbie Collier was alive to between 2:55 p.m. on September 10th and then 3:19 p.m. during those moments when she was seen on surveillance in the Family Dollar store. It was at 3:17 p.m. that Amanda Bearden received the Venmo payment with that chilling message, "They're not going to let me go." We have learned, again, our sources are telling us that through subpoenaed phone records, they have determined that that message was sent from the parking lot of the Family Dollar store in Clayton, Georgia, which is where they know Debbie Collier was up until 3:19 p.m. Apparently, there was also another text message sent from her phone, a simple "I love you" to her son, which didn't go through, but was recovered when they got the records. And then at 3:19 p.m., she exits the parking lot, her phone goes silent, and approximately 22 hours later, she was found dead in the woods about 12 miles away.
All right. By a show of hands in the chat, who feels there was somebody else in that 2022 Chrysler Pacifica minivan with her? We saw those windows tinted out by the factory where you can't see anything. How many people here feel there was somebody in that van with her? Press a 1. If you feel that that was not a possibility or that's a low possibility, press a 2. These are interesting polls that Ed and I look at, and we look at this and we check it out and see how everybody's balanced here. So I see a lot of number 1s. I see a lot of number 2s. But the 1s seem like they outweigh the 2s. I saw one number 3 come in. Thank you for not counting in this poll by putting a number 3 in the chat. Okay, Trish. Excellent. Thanks. So it looks like there's a fair amount of both here. Okay. So Squirrel Sandwich says, how about those polls? All right. Thank you to everyone who participated. Let's listen to the rest of this because, again, this is fascinating to hear this. It's actually, for me, this caught me off guard. When I heard this piece by our good friend Vinny, I was like, what? I said, wait a minute.
Oh, hell no.
But you got to take it for where it's coming from. She has her sources, and she said, and she's a legit local, media person. Habersham Now is a respectable media outlet in that local community, and she's reporting this as a reliable sources that are close on the case. So interesting. All right, the poll is closed. Let's take a peek and listen a little bit better.
"I love you" to her son. Sources are telling us the Family Dollar store. It was at 3:17 p.m. that Amanda Bearden received the Venmo payment with that chilling message, "They're not going to let me go." We have learned, again, our sources are telling us that through subpoenaed phone records, they have determined that that message was sent from the parking lot of the Family Dollar store in Clayton, Georgia, which is where they know Debbie Collier was up until 3:19 p.m. Apparently, there was also another text message sent from her phone, a simple "I love you" to her son, which didn't go through, but was recovered when they got the records. And then at 3:19 p.m., she exits the parking lot. Her phone goes silent, and approximately 22 hours later, she was found dead in the woods about 12 miles away.
All right, we have about a minute left. Based on this information, Joseph Scott Morgan, what does it have you thinking right now?
Listen to this.
Well, again, my default position is always return back to the science. I want to see the autopsy report. I want to know how extensive her injuries are. It's been very vague relative to, they had a focal area of burning they keep referring to in the abdomen. And again, back to what Bobby was saying about self-immolation, it's one of the rarest forms of suicide that exists. I think I may have handled 3 in my entire career. And generally, there was a severe psychotic break that had taken place relative.
He just said in his entire career, he has had 3 cases. He's handled a lot of cases over his time. So I'll back it up so you guys can hear it again. This is Joseph Scott Morgan.
Self-immolation, it's one of the rarest forms of suicide that exists. I think I may have handled 3 in my entire career. And generally, there was a severe psychotic break that had taken place relative to that. And that would mean that gas would be all over the body, the accelerant would be. So for me, I'm waiting for the records.
All right.
And I want to just say this. What he just said there, my good friend, our good friend, Ed Wallace, he said the same thing. I'm waiting for the records, waiting for the reports. He has had 2 or 3 of these cases over the course of his entire career. I am going to, what do you think the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow morning? I'm going to text Barbara Butcher and ask her how many of her cases that she covered in her 24 years as a New York City Medical Examiner's chief of staff. How many cases have she investigated that were similar to this? And I guarantee it's going to be low, because if you look at the nationwide statistics, they're all very, very low. So, again, the possibility of her lighting herself on fire to commit suicide is low. I'll say it again. It's low. But this news reporter from Habersham Now is now just reporting that this potentially is that they're not looking at her daughter and her boyfriend, or whatever you want to call them, and that they're looking in the direction of accidental or potential suicide. I don't know how they could come to that conclusion, or how that could be put out there, or how that got leaked out there to her. But at the end of the day, she's on court TV talking about this. And if you guys haven't heard this, I'm going to link this entire 20 or it's actually 13 minutes. So it's really not that long. It's 13 minutes. I'll link this entire 13-minute live in the description, and you guys can go on over there. Carboxy hemoglobin test. Remember that, because I am going to do a follow-up on Forensics Friday. And guess what tomorrow is? Tomorrow is Friday. Forensics Friday. We're going to try to lasso and rope Ed Wallace into a Forensic Friday evening live stream. And it's going to be a late one. It'll probably be 9 or 10 o'clock. But this is all tentative for tomorrow night. We have a lot of things to go over. We have a lot of additional things to talk about with this case and with others. So if you're not yet subscribed to Crime Time with Dutyron, please consider hitting the red subscribe button. Thank you. The Coolest Queen just became a channel member. And if you're not yet considering becoming a channel member, please consider that. That helps us go on with our mission to cover these cases and these stories. You know, I know a lot of you like to hear from the professionals that Ed and I bring on, and we'll continue to consult with professionals rather than to bring you information that we're just going to spew out to you. So we're going to continue to consult with our professionals in our staff within our, you know, our law enforcement background. Ed's Rolodex is really thick. I have a great amount of resources available to me as well. So we're going to continue to bring you stuff, but we're not going to force feed you information that we're just guessing at. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you like all things true crime related from a police detective's perspective, this is the place to be. Millie, thank you for becoming a member. Millie's been around for a long time. Always good to see you. Janine Darby, thank you for becoming a channel member. We appreciate you. And I thank you. And I want to just listen to again, just to the end of this, because, you know, I know there's a lot of new people that are just piling in right now. So I want to just listen to the back end of this on Joseph Scott Morgan one more time, because I think it's that important. Let's just listen to what he says at the close here. I think that's good enough right there.
Sent from her phone. And then at 3:19, 2 hours later, she...
About a minute left. Based on this information, Joseph Scott Morgan, what does it have you thinking right now?
Well, again, my default position is always return back to the science. I want to see the autopsy report. I want to know how extensive her injuries are. It's been very vague relative to, you know, they had a focal area of burning they keep referring to in the abdomen. And again, you know, back to what Bobby was saying about self-immolation, it's one of the rarest forms of suicide that exists. I think I may have handled 3 in my entire career. And generally there was a severe psychotic break that had taken place relative to that. And that would mean that gas would be all over the body, the accelerant would be. So for me, I'm waiting for the records.
All right.
He's waiting for the records. And I'll leave you guys with that. Rebecca, thank you for becoming a channel member. Hello to Joe Murray and friends coming in. Hey, I'm going to close this thing up. I want to take, I love to do this because I know you guys like this. I'm going to take one question in regards to this case. So if somebody wants to chime in and call in onto the chat, the only thing is you got to enable your camera and, you know, make sure you have good audio. No feedback or anything like that. There it is. I just sent it in the chat, I believe. Did I send it? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll pin it. And let's talk about Debbie Collier. Let's talk about this possible reclassification of this case and what you guys feel about this. I don't feel that that they have a tremendous amount of information that's leading them into that direction. I think that this is just something that is the latest and greatest thing to talk about. I think, you know, media folks, not saying that she's spewing out bad information. I'm just saying that, you know, sometimes I have seen this where media will get information from law enforcement and it won't be transmitted the right way. So as Joseph Scott Morgan said, we're going to wait for the data. We're going to wait for the science before we can say, hey, this is what happened, you know, because this is, if you're at Atlantic City, this is a roll of the dice that I would not bet on. I would not bet on that she went and did this to herself. So my spidey sense still says that there's something not right about it. There's something criminal about it. So I'm going to give you a quick, that's my say on that one. The link is up. Yes, it is up. But I don't think anybody wants to step into the realm and talk about it. So, but I did want to give that opportunity. But I think I'm going to close tonight's show with Mike King again, with Mike King's kind words to Ed Wallace and I. I hope that you guys again consider subscribing to Crime Time with Dutyron. I hope you enjoyed this late night live stream. I'd like to always end these by saying, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially all victims of crime and their families. I'm going to send strength, prayers, and positive vibes. There's so many that we are talking about here. This week, this month, it seems like this month and a half, there's been so many of these cases involving little kids. You know, look at Quentin. Look at Harmony Montgomery. Look at Orrin and Orson West. Look at poor Tommy Valva out in Long Island. There's just so much horror. And it seems like since this pandemic hit in 2020, the amounts of crimes being committed against our youngest, our most vulnerable, our elderly is just skyrocketed. And it's really a shame. It's really a shame. But that's where we're at. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys consider subscribing if you're new and stumbling across this for the first time. And I'm going to end the show with Mike King's message to Ed and I from last night. We all know and love Mike King from Profiling Evil. So good night, everybody.
Well, hey, everybody, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and I wanted to just take a second and shout out my buddy Ron over at Dutyron. I don't know if you watch Dutyron, and if you're not watching, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button and go over and spend time. You know, Ron and I don't always agree on cases, but we always treat each other with respect, and we always look for chances to collaborate with each other. Tonight, Ron was in the middle of a live, and I was getting ready to go live. There was no way I wanted to go head-to-head with Ron, and that guy stepped up and invited you all to come over to Profiling Evil after his show was over, and I went live. You know, it's relationships like that in the YouTube that can really help us bring things together. There is a batch of other creators out there that I really enjoy working with, and some others that I just don't know well enough, I guess. But nonetheless, make sure you're going to Duty Ron. Make sure you're visiting Ron and Ed and listening to the wisdom that's shared there. And make sure you're tuning in to Profiling Evil. Together, we might come up with some ways to help crack some of these cases. Most importantly, we're going to be part of this machine that's sharing information and keeping these stories alive. So, Ron, thanks so much for all your support of Profiling Evil, and to me personally. You know, we were brothers in blue many years ago, and now on YouTube, we're brothers from different mothers. Thanks a lot, brother. Take care.
So there he was, Mike King. I'm going to stop it right there because I was going to end this, but guess who's here? Ed Wallace is checking in with us. Ed, what's up, brother? Where are you?
Sitting in my car.
Everybody's leaving because I said we were going to end it on Mike King, but I just played it in the beginning of the show. I played it at the end, and I played that court TV piece on Debbie Collier. Any thoughts you want to share with the audience? We talked about the lungs and the report. Joseph Scott Morgan was on there.
Yeah, you know, we spoke about this on several cases. Like I told you, I had several cases of accidental burning deaths. I'd never had one of suicide. I have people murdered by being set on fire alive. And there's typically, you know, in this, they're fully engulfed. The accelerant is spread all over the body, and they inhale the soot, the hot gases, and evidence of that is found in their nostrils, in their respiratory tract, the trachea, and down into the lungs. And then, yes, they're going to test the, at autopsy, they would test the organs and blood and so forth, looking for high carbon monoxide levels. And that would tell whether the victim was alive at the time of the fire. Now it's evident that, you know, some of her clothing was burned off. What I found very disturbing in that piece that you played is things that we talked about in this case when the reporter went back there and they discovered all this evidence that was left behind.
Right.
And now apparently. They went back and found a burnt and melted
gas can.
Now, you know, they said accelerants were detected. but what kind of accelerants? Was it in fact gasoline?
Right.
Was it something else?
Now we have an arson investigator involved in this case.
Mhm.
So we're going to wait to hear from him. I want to just add in Nicole for a second. And Nicole, just give me the thumbs up if you're ready to come in. I asked people to call in with questions, and she was the only brave one. So I want to add her in with us, Ed, if you don't mind. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, how you both?
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Nicole.
Where are you calling in from?
Brisbane, Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
Down under.
Yeah, beautiful and sunny weather.
Put another prawn on the Barbie.
No,
Oh,
no
would you
prawns
stop that
here.
already?
Dutyron, obviously melanoma. I'm a melanoma survivor twice. Another one getting taken off next week. So I feel for you. Just a question with detective works. Like, if she was going to commit suicide, why would she go to a dollar store and buy, things relating to going to, say, a footy game, and then go and commit suicide? Why would you stop at Why would you stop at a dollar store? Why would you go and purchase those items before killing yourself? If that was the intention.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the confusing parts to us, even before this new revelation of the potential for her to, hear investigators looking at her either accidentally killing herself or intentionally. My thing is that, we'll never know why she bought this, because obviously she's not here. But to try to put those pieces of the puzzle together is a difficult task. And Ed can tell you, we can collect the evidence. We could look at what she got, and it's really just guesswork of why. She was wearing the jersey like she was going to a Georgia football game. She was wearing a visor and an outfit that you would wear going to a sporting event. And I don't know, Ed, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's very confusing. First of all, if she was going to do this, why did she pick that spot? Okay, to do it. Does she have any prior connection to that spot? Has any background investigation been done, or any interviews with the family to suggest that she knows this location, she's been there before, or they've been there before? Is there something in her history that's associated with this spot? If not, then how did she know it was there? Why did she go there? These are all questions that need to be answered.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it is baffling, but I would be more interested in hearing about her mental health history, right? I'd want to know, is she on psychotropic medication? Is she did she have an argument with somebody? This is all stuff that we didn't hear about, because the case detectives, they have that, and they're not releasing that to the public. But all of her victimology, like that, everything that surrounds this woman's life in the weeks or months leading up to this, is what I would be interested in hearing about, and we don't have access to that. So that might be a little bit more telling a different tale here, so to speak. And they may have that access to that information, which is what the case detectives do. They do all kinds of interviews. They interview everybody and interrogate anyone that needs to be interrogated. And I would say that would be an interesting going forward. Interesting to hear that going forward, but we're not going to probably hear it until everything is complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being brave all the way from Brisbane, Australia.
Welcome.
And yeah, we always love our Aussie friends. Dr. Ian Dodor from Perth joined us. He's the bug doctor, right, Ed?
That's right.
Yeah, and he was a great guest. Did you catch that show, Nicole?
I did. I certainly did.
Yeah.
And I'll be down your way in 2024.
Oh, fantastic. I'll still be here, hopefully.
God willing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for
Thanks, guys.
chiming in. Great to see you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, there she goes, Nicole. That was awesome. So yeah, Ed, you're probably coming home from a long evening of Army training, right?
Army training, sir. Yes.
Army training. So this thing is just
let's get back to the message. They're not going to let me go. I mean, everybody read into it as being cryptic, okay? And well, as I said in previous episodes, this could be something that is in a conversation she had with her daughter. Who is they and go where? Okay, because again, the interviews with the family members would shed some light on this as to if there was a conversation about where she was going, where she was heading, and and why they weren't going to let her go. Again, it sounds like the daughter would know what the context of that conversation is.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, we're not in the business of trying to solve these cases, but it would be interesting to hear more from the daughter. But everybody's gone radio silent, including the boyfriend. Andrew, he was telling everybody at one point through the news media that he was afraid for his life because he was getting threats on social media. He was getting, all kinds of. He was just bugging out. But they have a very troubled past, and that makes them, by default, part of this, part of the main players in this investigation. But we heard Habersham Now's news producer. She said that her sources, which are detectives on the case, essentially say that they're pulling back from persons of interest, suspects, whatever you want to call them, subjects, the daughter and the boyfriend. But I believe she just named the daughter in that segment.
I'm looking through the chat and I see some things, and I'm wondering, does anybody freebase anymore? I mean, because I see this conversation about, smoking drugs and so forth. And right. I remember how Richard Pryor set himself on fire.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought about that today. He almost died. I mean, he had burns over like 80% of his body. So yeah, that was a thought, because could she have been buying the lighter and components and so forth to cook cocaine? That's freebase. You cook it in a spoon, just like with heroin. Freebase. People are asking questions. What is that? Look it up. It's crack cocaine, essentially.
Well,
I don't know if that's even a thing anymore, but
yeah, they used to use ether and powdered cocaine and burnt and cook it with and she did buy a torch, right? She did buy in that dollar store a butane, right? It was a butane torch.
Yes, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was like four or five different items: the poncho, the tarp, the 2 rolls of paper towels, and a butane torch. Yeah, so interesting. We got
to see what the toxicology says.
Right. Yeah, and that's what Joseph Scott Morgan said. He's going to wait until these reports are complete. And he talked about scarring and breathing in the different different components of a fire. But also too, we look at she was partially clothed, right? They didn't say she was naked. They just said her shirt was off, or
it was burnt off.
So yeah, there's a lot of work to still be done here. But when I heard this piece today, I said there's no way that I can't go live about this tonight and talk about it. And plus, I wanted to highlight our good friend Mike King. What did you think of that little video that he put together for us, Ed?
That was beautiful. It was very nice, very professional. He's as I said, he's a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, that was a great message you left in his community section. I encourage everybody to go over there and watch this video. He's going to make it public probably tonight or tomorrow. When he puts this 1 minute and 57-second video out, go over onto his channel and give it a thumbs up and leave a comment over there. And more importantly, subscribe if you're not subscribed.
I once had a case at Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn, and this woman was in the hospital and she was in an oxygen tent, and the headboard of her hospital bed was up against an exterior wall, and this woman could not control her urge to smoke, and she just had to have a cigarette, and she lit up a cigarette in that oxygen tank, and blew a hole in that brick wall behind her out, and the bricks came flying down to the street. And she killed herself. And in fact, when I got there, parts of her was still on fire. It was like the fatty substance in her tissue was like a candle that would reignite, and would have to be put out time and time again.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable. How many of these? How many suicide cases have you been on that the person burned themselves? Can you remember? Is there a lot?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a suicide where somebody burned themselves. I've had accidentals where they burned themselves to death, or the accidentally setting them on fire caused their death.
Right.
But I've never had a suicide by fire. I've had several females kill themselves, and all those cases were self-inflicted gunshot wounds to the chest.
Yeah. So they can have the open casket. Yeah, terrible. But Ed, I want to thank you, man, for coming on from a long day. I'm just going to get ready to wrap it up. What do you think? Forensics Friday tomorrow?
Well, remember, I'm working, so
forget it. No way.
Yeah, I can do 8 to 9, but that's about it.
No, let's do it next Friday, because we agreed that we're not going to do it. We'll be into November, so that'll be our
next Friday. I'll be winging my way to Morocco.
Hold on.
Oh, hell no.
Hold on. One more.
What are you people? On dope?
That's correct, Mr. Han.
You're going to Morocco?
Yes.
How long?
Until the 18th.
Will you have internet service?
Yes.
All right, then you can go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, sir.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Thank you, Ferris.
Ferris.
Hey, if you're gonna sign my 28 so I can go.
Yes, I'm signing your 28. You can go. Just make sure you check in. I need hourly rings. Rings on the hour. Anyways, guys and girls, this was I was about to cut this off at 40 minutes, so it's an extended version thanks to Ed Wallace and his dedication. I didn't even tell him that I was going live. I just said I was probably going to do something. So kudos to Ed for coming live from the mobile with us. Are you home, or are you starting out your drive?
I'm sitting in my driveway right now.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Ed. So thank you to everybody who's joined. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, like and subscribe, and leave us comments down below. Next time we'll be live, maybe over the weekend sometime, maybe Sunday night or something like that. I don't know. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah.
Whenever we need to go live, if something is to come up, we'll go live. All right. So thank you guys for joining in, and we will see you on the next one. Ed, thanks for joining.
Catch you later, Ron. Catch you later, folks.
Peace.
Remember, be safe, be prepared, watch your six.
Thank you, Ed. I already said my spiel, so we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace and love from Crime Time with Dutyron and Ed.
All right. Take care.